A blind boy just asked Elon Musk why he can't see God. What Elon said shocked everyone. It was supposed to be just another school visit. Elon Musk had agreed to speak at a small academy known for its emphasis on science and innovation. The auditorium buzzed with energy. Students whispered about Mars, self-driving cars, and robots. But among the curious eyes and eager minds sat one boy who couldn't see any of it. 12-year-old Jacob had been blind since birth. Yet, his mind was as sharp as any in the room, maybe sharper. As Elon took the stage, talking about artificial intelligence, interplanetary travel, and neural links, Jacob sat still, listening carefully, every word forming shapes in his imagination. Then, during the QA session, a teacher handed Jacob the microphone. His voice was soft but clear, and it stopped Elon cold. "Mr. Musk," Jacob asked, "if you can make robots see, can you help me see God?" The room fell into silence. A few students chuckled awkwardly, unsure if it was a joke. But Jacob's face held no humor, just honesty, innocence, depth. Elon blinked, taken aback. He cleared his throat. "Well, that's a big question," he said, attempting a smile. "Science hasn't quite figured that out yet." But Jacob interrupted gently. "I already feel him. I just wanted to know if you do." That moment, those few words, shifted the air in the room. Elon looked at the boy, then out into the crowd of students, teachers, and cameras. He wasn't used to being speechless, but something about Jacob's presence, his blindness, yet clarity, shook something in him. Why couldn't he answer? He had explained quantum mechanics to heads of state, defended AI to skeptical investors, and led conversations about colonizing Mars. But now, here was a child, not asking for technology or knowledge, but for something far deeper. Something Elon wasn't sure he'd found himself. "Do I feel God?" He wanted to give a clever reply. He wanted to steer the conversation back to science. But he couldn't, because deep down he knew this boy wasn't asking for information. He was asking for connection. And as the silence stretched, Jacob tilted his head and whispered, "Isn't it strange, Mr. Musk? I can't see, but I feel him. Most people can see everything, but they don't." That line, that gentle observation, it echoed inside the room like thunder. What do we really see? Is the world more than what light reflects into our eyes? And in that moment, a billionaire genius found himself learning from a blind child. Not facts, not formulas, but something else, something that couldn't be measured, not yet. Elon sat down on the edge of the stage. Something about Jacob's words made it impossible to stand tall like he usually did when answering questions. This wasn't a press conference or a product launch. It was something far more human. "I've spent my life building things," Elon began, his voice lower now. "Machines, systems, rockets, things I can touch, test, measure. That's how I understand the world." Jacob nodded, listening. "But what you're asking me, it's not something you can build." Jacob smiled gently. "But maybe it's something you can feel, even if you don't understand it." The students in the room were no longer fidgeting or looking at their phones. Every eye was locked on the unlikely conversation unfolding. A boy who had never seen the stars was helping the man who wanted to colonize them question what he truly believed. "What does God feel like to you, Jacob?" Elon asked. There was a pause. Jacob seemed to be thinking, not rushing the moment. "Like peace when I'm scared," he said quietly. "Like someone's holding my hand even when no one is. Like love that doesn't leave." Elon felt something tighten in his chest. The honesty, the simplicity. It reminded him of a part of himself he hadn't visited in years. A quieter self, before the noise of success and expectations. "I used to pray when I was a kid," Elon admitted suddenly. "I stopped when the world got louder." "Maybe God never stopped listening," Jacob said. That line hit harder than anything else Elon had heard that year, maybe his whole life. And then Jacob asked another question. "Do you ever feel alone, Mr. Musk, even when you're surrounded by people?" The room waited. Elon hesitated. "I do," he said finally, "a lot more than people think." Jacob nodded like he already knew the answer. "I think everyone feels alone sometimes," the boy said, "but some people try to fill it with noise, or work, or things. But it never works, because that empty place, It's where God is supposed to be. It wasn't a sermon. It wasn't preaching. It was just truth, spoken without judgment, without pride, just like a child who knew what it meant to be still and listen. The audience didn't move. No one dared break the moment. And inside Elon's mind, 100 equations faded into the background as a single question rose to the surface. What if the greatest discovery isn't out there in the stars, but in here, in the soul? What if Jacob, blind to the world, could see something he had missed all his life? The room still felt frozen in time. No one expected Elon Musk, the visionary of our age, to be humbled not by technology or science, but by a blind boy with quiet faith. Elon looked at Jacob. "You speak like someone who sees more than most of us." Jacob tilted his head again. "Maybe it's because I don't see with my eyes. I listen. I feel. People rush through life looking at everything, but really seeing nothing." Elon took a breath. It reminded him of something he once read, how ancient prophets wandered deserts to find truth not by sight, but by silence. "What do you believe God is, Jacob?" he asked. The boy smiled gently. "I don't know all the answers, but I believe He's love. And love isn't something you see, it's something you give. And when you give it, you feel it." Elon looked down at his hands. Hands that had built empires, designed rockets, programmed futures. But when was the last time those hands had simply held someone without purpose, without a goal? The idea rattled something deep inside him. He wasn't an unkind man, but somewhere along the way, he'd replaced stillness with productivity, replaced wonder with logic, replaced mystery with data, and now a blind boy was showing him that some of the most important truths in life come wrapped in silence, not science. Jacob spoke again, softer now. "Mr. Musk, you're one of the smartest people alive, but maybe the question isn't can you see God? Maybe it's, can you let Him see you?" Elon's eyebrows lifted. "What do you mean by that?" Jacob nodded slowly. "Some people are afraid to be really seen, not by cameras or fans or followers, but seen deep down, the parts they hide, the fears, the mistakes, the questions they're too scared to ask. But God, He sees all of it, and still stays." The words dug deep. Elon wasn't used to being vulnerable. Every interview, every deal, every appearance, curated, calculated, controlled. But this boy had stripped all that away in minutes. No filters, no pretending, just truth. "I think I've spent my life trying to prove something," Elon said quietly, almost to himself. "To be good enough, smart enough, important enough. But maybe I've been trying to earn something that was never meant to be earned." Jacob nodded again. "Love isn't earned, it's given, like a gift." And that word, gift, lingered in the air like a quiet hymn. How many people in that room had chased things their whole lives, hoping to feel whole? How many had missed the greatest gift because they were too busy looking everywhere? But inward? And how could a boy who had never seen a sunrise understand light more deeply than a man who wanted to build a sun on Mars? A teacher in the back wiped her eyes quietly. She hadn't expected to cry today, not during a science talk, but something about this moment reached past intellect and settled into the soul. Elon's voice was quieter now, less certain, more human. "I've always believed we could solve anything with enough intelligence," he said. "But this, what you're talking about, it feels like something beyond intelligence." Jacob nodded. "It is. It's not something you solve. It's something you receive." The room was utterly still. "And what if I don't feel it?" Elon asked, the vulnerability raw in his voice. "What if I try and still feel nothing?" Jacob didn't flinch. "Then you keep asking. Keep listening. Sometimes God doesn't shout, He whispers." There was something beautiful in the simplicity of that. So many chase signs and proofs. So many demand miracles. But Jacob, he lived in darkness every day, and still chose to believe in a light the world couldn't see. Elon leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "You said you feel Him like peace, like love that doesn't leave. How did you learn that?" Jacob smiled faintly. "My mom." "Is she here?" Jacob shook his head. "She passed away last year." A soft gasp rippled through the crowd. Elon's voice dropped. "I'm sorry." Jacob didn't cry, but his voice trembled a little. She used to sing to me when I was afraid. I couldn't see her face, but I felt her hand. I didn't need to see to know she was with me. That's how I think God is. You can't see his face, but if you're still enough, you feel his hand. It was more profound than anything Elon had heard in a boardroom, a laboratory, or a conference stage. Sometimes, Jacob continued, we want God to prove himself, but what if he's already here, and we're just too busy looking through the wrong eyes? Elon looked at him. What eyes should we be using? Jacob smiled. The ones in here. He touched his chest. The eyes of the soul. That phrase echoed in Elon's mind. The eyes of the soul. Could there really be a part of us that sees truth, not with the mind, but with the heart? He'd spent his life chasing the stars, yet had never sat still long enough to notice the invisible wonders that already surrounded him. Maybe faith wasn't about seeing everything clearly, but trusting when you couldn't. Maybe the greatest discoveries didn't come from telescopes, but from silence, stillness, surrender. And in that moment, Elon Musk, who had looked farther into the future than almost anyone, found himself pulled back into the present, face to face with a boy who taught him something no algorithm ever could, that sometimes the clearest vision comes from those who see nothing at all. The air in the auditorium had changed. Not a change you could measure with sensors or capture on film, but a stillness, like something sacred had entered the space, as if truth itself had come to sit among them. Elon looked at Jacob and said, "You've made me think about something I never take time to ask. What if there's more to life than progress?" Jacob's answer was immediate, but soft. What if progress isn't how far we go, but how deep we love? That line struck Elon like lightning. He had always seen life as a race against time, always building, improving, reaching. But Jacob wasn't reaching, he was resting. And still, he carried something more powerful than all the tech Elon had ever invented. Faith. Not blind faith, but faith with vision deeper than sight. Elon leaned forward. "When your mom passed, didn't you get angry at God?" Jacob paused. His fingers tightened slightly around his white cane. "I did," he admitted. "For a while. I asked why he would take someone who loved me so much. I stopped praying. I stopped believing." A few people in the audience shifted. His honesty was disarming. "But then one night," Jacob continued, "I was lying in bed crying. I felt so alone. And I whispered, 'I miss her.' And I didn't hear a voice. But I felt warmth, like the kind she used to give when she tucked me in." He exhaled slowly, remembering. "That night I realized love doesn't leave. Not real love, it just moves deeper." Elon's throat tightened. He had lost people too, friends, relationships, pieces of himself along the way. He had buried pain under projects, grief under goals. But listening to Jacob made something inside him stir, a longing he couldn't explain. Jacob turned his face slightly toward Elon. "Mr. Musk, maybe God gave you the gift of building things not just for machines, but for people. Maybe he's waiting for you to build something you can't post online, something inside." Elon closed his eyes for a second. He saw everything he'd built: rockets, tunnels, electric cars, satellites, achievements stacked to the sky. And then he saw Jacob, a boy who had never seen a sunset, but had seen truth more clearly than he ever had. "You know," Elon said slowly, "we spend billions trying to create artificial light, solar panels, fusion, batteries." Jacob smiled, sensing what was coming. "But maybe," Elon whispered, "the most powerful light is the one we can't build." And then Jacob did something unexpected. He reached out his small hand, and Elon, a man who had shaken the hands of presidents and kings, took it with both of his. "Thank you," he said, "for helping me see." The applause didn't come right away, not because the audience wasn't moved, but because they didn't want to break the moment. It felt sacred, like a prayer was being said without words. Finally, someone stood up and clapped, then another, and another, until the entire auditorium was on its feet, not just for Elon Musk, but for Jacob, the blind boy who had taught them all to see. But Jacob didn't smile at the applause. He just sat quietly, his hand still held in Elon's, like he was still listening for something beyond the noise. Later, backstage, Elon knelt beside Jacob before the boy was taken home. "You've changed something in me," he said honestly, "and I don't even know how to explain it." Jacob's smile returned warm and knowing. "You don't have to explain it. Just don't forget it." Elon nodded, trying to hold on to the feeling, a feeling he hadn't known in years, maybe ever. "Do you think God can really see all of us?" he asked. Even the broken parts? Jacob touched Elon's chest lightly with his small hand. Especially the broken parts. That's where he shines the brightest. Tears welled in Elon's eyes, not from sadness, but from relief. Relief that maybe he didn't have to have all the answers, that maybe it was okay to wonder, to hope, to believe. The next morning, Jacob's story quietly went viral, not because of flashy headlines, but because people could feel something real in it. The video spread, not like entertainment, but like healing, like truth finding its way into aching hearts. One teacher wrote, "My students can't stop talking about Jacob. It's like he lit a candle inside them." A soldier commented, "I've seen things I can't unsee, but that boy reminded me God hasn't stopped seeing me." And one mother shared, "My daughter was losing faith. After watching this, she prayed for the first time in 2 years." It wasn't about Elon's fame or intellect anymore. It was about how a blind boy showed the world that faith isn't found in proof, it's found in presence. That God isn't hiding behind the stars, He's waiting in the silence. That love isn't loud, it whispers. And sometimes, the most important question you can ask isn't, "Where is God?" but, "Am I willing to be seen?" Elon never forgot Jacob. In interviews, he sometimes paused before answering big questions, as if still listening for that whisper in the silence. And every now and then, when he stared up at the stars, he didn't think about rockets or colonies or simulations. He just remembered a boy who couldn't see the sky, but had helped him see his soul. Because in the end, it wasn't about blindness. It was about vision. The kind that sees with love. The kind that can't be built, only received. The kind that reminds us all, you don't need to see God to know He's there. You just need to be still and let Him see you.